In this video, let us discuss service strategy. Sourcing structures, delivery strategies. Here are some sourcing structures we have in ITIL. In insourcing strategy, all the resources utilised are internal. In outsourcing strategy, all the resources utilised are external organisational resources. Co-sourcing is a combination of insourcing and outsourcing. Partnership or multi-sourcing is a strategic partnership. Business process outsourcing, BPO, where entire business process or function is outsourced. Knowledge process outsourcing, KPO, where domain-based process or business expertise are outsourced. Multi-vendor sourcing is where we source resources from different vendors. Cloud sourcing are specific predefined services, usually on demand and pay-as-you-go. Once the resource and organisational discussion begins, the organisation must be sure to account for the introduction of new critical skills. These competencies generally fall into three categories: business, technical and behavioural. For example, the greater the level of outsourcing, the greater the need for business and behavioural skills. The greater the level of insourcing, the greater the need for technical skills. Risk and investment decision. A possible event that could cause harm or loss or affect the ability to achieve objectives. Risk management requires the identification and control of the exposure to risk, which may have an impact on the achievement of an organisation's business objectives. The figure explains how to allocate budget to strategic categories of service. So the concept is simple. The more you move further and think to transform your business, the more you should have budget allocated and more risk is involved. Service strategy processes. Let's understand all the 5 processes under service strategy. Strategy management for IT services, to assess the service provider's offerings, capabilities, competitors, as well as current and potential market spaces, in order to develop a strategy to serve customers. Once the strategy has been defined, strategy management for IT services is also responsible for ensuring the implementation of the strategy. Service portfolio management. Service portfolio management will ensure that every proposed new service or any strategic change to an existing service is analysed to determine the level of investment required and the proposed return on that investment. Financial management for IT services. Financial management for IT services indicates that a service costs significantly more or less than anticipated, thus impacting the potential return on investment for that service. Demand management. To understand, anticipate and influence customer demand for services. Demand management works with capacity management to ensure that the service provider has sufficient capacity to meet the required demand. Business relationship management. To maintain a positive relationship with customers, business relationship management identifies the needs of existing and potential customers and ensures that appropriate services are developed to meet those needs. Goals and objectives. Strategy management for IT services. The goal of strategy management for IT services is defining and maintaining an organisation's perspective, position, plans and patterns with regard to its services and the management of those services. Here are a few objectives. Analyse the internal and external environments to identify opportunities that will benefit the organisation. Identify constraints that might prevent the achievement of business outcomes. Establish the position of the service provider relative to its customers and other service providers. Produce and maintain IT strategy, the service management strategy and the strategy plans for each service where appropriate. You should always remember that IT strategy must be aligned to business strategy. Strategy management for IT services. Strategy management for IT services is the process of defining and maintaining an organisation's perspective, position, plans and patterns with regard to its services and the management of those services. Strategy management for IT services focuses on these 4 major activities. Define the market. Services and strategy. Understand the customer. understand the opportunities, classify and visualize, develop the offerings, understand market space, customer desired outcomes supported by services, outcome-based definition of services, service portfolio, pipeline, catalogue and retired services, develop strategic assets, service management as a closed-loop control system, service management as a strategic asset. Prepare for execution, aligning service assets with customer outcomes, prioritizing investments. Usually, strategy management is the responsibility of the executives of an organization. It enables them to set the objectives of the organization, to specify how the organization will meet those objectives, and to prioritize investments required to meet them. Service portfolio management, goals and objectives. Service portfolio management is a dynamic method for governing investments in service management across the enterprise and managing them for value. The goal of service portfolio management is to manage service portfolio by considering services in terms of the business value they provide. Objective is to apply comparable practices to manage service portfolios, maximize value while managing risk and costs. A service portfolio describes a provider's service in terms of business value. It articulates business needs and the provider's response to those needs. By definition, business value terms correspond to marketing terms, providing a means for comparing service competitiveness across alternative providers. The role of service portfolio management is service portfolio manager, who manages the entire service portfolio. Understanding service portfolio. The figure shows the service portfolio in detail. Service portfolio includes service pipeline, live services, and retired services. Service pipeline is a database or structured document listing all services that are under consideration or development but are not yet available to customers. Service catalogue is a database or structured document with information about all live IT services, including those available for deployment. The service catalogue is the only part of the service portfolio published to customers and is used to support the sale and delivery of IT services. Some services in the service portfolio are phased out or retired, called retired services. There is a decision to be made by each organisation, following a service review, on when to move a service from catalogue to retired. Another important part in service portfolio management is utilising and allocating the resources. The service portfolio represents all the resources presently engaged or being released in various stages of the service lifecycle. Each stage requires resources for completion of projects, initiatives, and contracts. Service portfolio management in SKMS. Here is the figure that shows service portfolio and service catalogues representation in Service Knowledge Management System, SKMS. Service catalogue is the only part which is visible to customers. The service portfolio represents all the resources presently engaged or being released in various stages of the service lifecycle. It is a database or structured document in 3 parts. Service pipeline is related to all services that are under consideration or development but are not yet available to customers. It includes major investment opportunities that have to be traced to the delivery of services and the value that will be realised. The service pipeline provides a business view of possible future services and is part of the service portfolio that is not normally published to customers. Service catalogue is related to all live IT services, including those available for deployment. It is the only part of the service portfolio published to customers and is used to support the sale and delivery of IT services. It includes a customer-facing view or views of the IT services in use, how they are intended to be used, the business processes they enable, and the levels and quality of service the customer can expect for each service. The service catalogue also includes information about supporting services required by the service provider to deliver customer-facing services. Information about services can only enter the service catalogue after due diligence has been performed on related costs and risks. Retired services are related to all services that have been phased out or retired. Retired services are not available to new customers or contracts unless a special business case is made. Service providers often find it useful to distinguish customer-facing services from supporting services. Customer-facing services are IT services that are visible to the customer. These are normally services that support the customer's business processes and facilitate one or more outcomes desired by the customer. Supporting services are IT services that support or underpin the customer-facing services. These are typically invisible to the customer but are essential to the delivery of customer-facing IT services. The goal of demand management is to understand and influence customer demand for services and provide capacity to meet those demands. Objectives of demand management are to reduce risk of unavailability because of poorly managed demand, manage cost and create value through reducing excess capacity, balance supply and demand of resources, ensure quality of service is maintained with sufficient capacity. The key points to remember about demand management are, at a strategic level, demand management can involve analysis of patterns of business activity and user profiles. At a tactical level, it can involve use of differential charging to encourage customers to use IT services at less busy times. Also, demand management is very closely linked to capacity management.